Hello my friends, and welcome to a video about a farm. A farm that is ahead of the curve. Because you know, copper is going to be all the craze. And obviously you want different stages of copper. You want oxidized copper. You want slightly oxidized, whatever they're called. You know, the different types of them. And so I have gone through the trouble to make a farm. And that is a farm that we are going to use today. So just, you know, watch this. Watch this. Let me just... Let me put that in my offhand. Hold this here. I'm going to go into survival mode real quick. There we go. Make sure this is reset, and we're going to start by placing a block there, and then we're going to stand here and hold down both left click and right click at the same time, and we're just going to wait. Oh, look at that. And then it places one, and then I hop back down and I wait. Oh, and again, sweet. Let's see if we can do that one more time. Oh, look at that, beautiful. Now let's say we don't want that one, we want the other one. Let's just, you know, do that real quick. Now we can once again technical difficulties. Whoops. Well, that was not how that was supposed to go. So anyways, yeah. Now we, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Come on now. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. You got this. You got this. Oh, and there it goes. And there you have it. Sweet. Now this farm works flawlessly, obviously. And the way it obviously works is every different stage that happens alerts the observers of those different stages, which is great, which is awesome, which is wonderful. So you could just sit here for hours and hours and just be getting them copper blocks. So it comes down here and you see a little bit of accumulated from just there, you know, and you know, it's not much, but that's because I haven't been sitting here for very long. But let's hop into creative mode and say a little bit about how this works. Alright, so simple mechanism. This lever, let's go ahead and turn that off real quick. I'll get to what that does in a second. Very, very simple machine that works beautifully. So the block in the middle here will be the first thing to fall, because as soon as a block hits this space here, as soon as the block is placed down in this space, this observer right here will detect that block, and it will immediately throw this spoon, this wooden shovel, into here. And because it throws it into this dropper, this comparator is no longer being powered. And with this comparator no longer being powered, this piston retracts, that block retracts, and you're a little bit lower. This button here is a reset button. It goes and resets these spoons that are all currently in here. And you don't need to press the reset button unless, for some reason, it's in the wrong position already, like ahead of time, which it should not be. But anyways, the way this part works is this observer is observing the changes of the copper block. So the first tick it gives is when the copper block is placed, and then it'll throw one spoon into here, okay? And that will affect this by giving off 2 strength. And then a second spoon will give off 2 more. And then a third spoon will activate the repeater, and then everything goes into motion, which triggers this piston to pull the copper block down while we're still down a block. And when we're just sitting there, once that copper block is pulled down, we break it. And then after that, the redstone will go to this here. It will lead up to this piston, which pushes this observer into this one, which makes them into a temporary clock that is activating this dropper to go back into this dropper, basically to put all these spoons back. And then, as well as putting all those spoons back, it'll activate this, which will move the spoon from this dropper into this dropper, and then into this water stream, and then it'll come back around into this hopper, which will reactivate this. And so for a split second, you will be, if you're auto farming it, where you're just sitting there with both left click and right click down, it will only be a split second before it retracts again, but it's just enough time to not break the block, provided you're using a pickaxe that isn't too fast, and just enough time to place that and be dropped back down without breaking it. So it's a flawless system, one that anyone could be proud of, and I made it quite compact, really. And so yeah, that's how that goes. Pretty sweet, right? And then this is a bypass. Now, the reason how this works as a bypass is because 2 spoons in this will activate this repeater. You need 3 spoons in this. I keep saying spoons, I mean shovels. When the third shovel enters here, this one is activated. Now, the point of this is that if you have this piston activated, which is this lever in here, if I could fall in, there we go. So that piston is now activated, meaning that this repeater will power through this block and power that repeater, and it'll go around and trigger the same entire system, but without without there needing to be 3 spoons in here. Only 2 spoons are needed, and each spoon correlates to a different stage of the copper. So 1 spoon is it being placed, 2 spoons is just 1 weathering cycle instead of all 3 of them. And you obviously don't need the system set up in such a way that you know when it's fully weathered, because that's not even there's no point in doing that, because if you're just trying to get it to be fully weathered, you can just set them on the ground and just wait. 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 And there you go. Oxidized copper. Anyways, this is a great system. This is beautiful. This is wonderful, and it's like the best thing ever. Only thing is, there's one humongous, gigantic flaw that honestly makes this entire machine practically useless. So yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Let me just go back into survival mode real quick. Let's just survival. Really, this is a really great system. I'm just gonna stand here. Okay, so that was about 16 seconds, and you saw that it went to that other stage very, very quickly. Now, most of you already are aware of this, because most of you aren't that oblivious to the fact that, yes, it's true, copper will not oxidize this quickly. So, let me show you the difference. Let me put it back to normal. Game rule, random tick speed, 3. that is the normal random tick speed. So let's just place this here. We're just going to wait. Yep. Yep. And we're waiting. And we're waiting. And we'll be waiting for another 4 hours because that's how long it's going to take, even in this position. Like, that's how long this is going to take. So you realize how inefficient this machine I spent so much time working on is? It's so freaking inefficient, man. Like, think about that. You're going to sit here for 4 hours to get one of the blocks you want. That means in a matter of 12 hours, you get 3. A day worth of AFKing, left click and right click in this spot, you get 6 blocks. That's just ridiculous. There's no point in that. So here's the thing. Even though this machine is beautiful and it would be awesome if copper oxidized more quickly, it just absolutely does not. So you would legitimately have a better time taking your copper and doing this and just waiting for hours. Because it is a random tick speed. It is completely a random tick speed. So you're going to wait hours and they're all going to be at different stages. And this is just the best that you can do. I mean, there's no contraption that's just going to currently make this more automated for you. I mean, mine works great. It does. Just not on normal tick speed, because a normal tick speed, everything is going to take so much longer. Because copper takes a very long time. So yeah, you'd be better off just doing this, leaving for 4 hours, coming back, and after you come back, you're just like, okay, let me go pick out the ones I want. So like that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, you know, whatever. And you just pick out the ones you need. Now, one thing I think if they changed with copper, we could make a machine that actually does something, is if there actually had to be an air block around them in order for them to oxidize. Now picture this. Picture you have a tube, right? In this tube, you have a line of copper, and nothing is touching any of that line of copper except for the front one that is pushed out for, let's say, you to break. Now, that could be a system that could work. The problem is copper does not work in that way in Minecraft. If it did, that would mean all those blocks in there are not going to get oxidized until they're to the spot they need to be oxidized in. Now, if that were the case, you could make a system that is oxidizing a bunch of them instead of having this tube, oxidizing a bunch of them, right? Okay, so we have this 9x9, 3x3 grid, 9 blocks. In these 9 blocks, let's say as soon as one of them is to the oxidizing stage that you want it to be. This is actually too close together. You'd have to make a system that's a little bit different than this. Probably something like this. And I know it's a huge space, but just imagine for a second. You have a space like this, okay? And these things are going to oxidize. And you have an observer here. Okay, let's just put sandstone there for now. And you make the contraption however you need to make the contraption. It's observing the stages of it, and then like my system over there, once it gets to the stage it needs to be in, then you could have a double piston extender detract the block so that it comes down to, like, you know, wherever. So like, let's say it's brought down to here. And then once it's brought down to here, another one is brought up, but this one is completely encased. And when it's completely encased, you could have it brought down that tube I'm talking about. And brought down that tube to someone who's AFKing at a spot with left click waiting to break that block. In that tube, it's not going to oxidize any farther, but it's not going to be in that tube until it's oxidized to the stage you want it. And that is the best system I can think of that would work for this, you know, for making a machine that you can AFK at and get a large amount of in whatever amount of hours. Because you would want a lot of this. You would want a lot. There's no question about that. You can't just do one at a time. One at a time is going to take you way too long. It just does not work. Because like this right here, this is the same one I placed before, and it has not oxidized once. It's a random tick speed, so there is a chance that you could get one oxidizing very, very quickly, but it's completely unlikely. So that being the case, I think a feature they should add to this update is that copper will not oxidize if it is completely encased. Because think about it, there's no air. There's no air around it whatsoever. If they can do that, if they can make it so that the oxidization of copper does not happen if it's encased, a contraption can be made that will allow you to just stand in a place waiting for the copper to be thrown in front of you, and you just click and click and click and click and click, and you hold click, and you're just AFKing. Imagine this. Imagine you have a grid this big, or even bigger, whatever the grid needs to be, you know? And in that grid, you have so many blocks, and because they're going to oxidize at different speeds, they will be pulled down, and they will be brought into this tube. And when they're brought into this tube, they're just eventually brought in front of the player. And the player is constantly going to be breaking new ones. And maybe it'll take some time. Like maybe it won't be like constant stream. Like once it gets to that point where they're finally all oxidizing, you're just sitting there and then break 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 and then break. But the thing is, at the very least, that could be a organized system to make sure that you're always getting the exact ones you want, and you don't have to wait hours and hours and hours to make sure you get the exact ones you want. Because otherwise, just placing them out in this grid like this, eventually, when you're waiting and waiting, and then you're going to come back later to see them at the stages you want, what's going to end up happening is they're not all going to be where you want them to be. Some of them are going to be oxidized further than you'd like them to be. Okay, so we want to come back to them when they'll be at the second stage, you know, the next one, the one after what's popping off right now. So we want that stage, and we want to come back when it's gotten to that stage. But what's going to end up happening for some of them when you do it this way is you come back, and there you go. Those are fully oxidized. We'll say you didn't want fully oxidized. This system doesn't allow you to always get what you want. Now, in most cases, most players are going to want a little bit of everything, so they'll just come back and at whatever stage, pick them all up, and then do a new amount, whatever. But that doesn't necessarily mean that in all cases, someone's going to need more of every type. What if someone just wanted this type, and they didn't want to get any others? That's what I'm talking about with this system here. Now, this one doesn't work because the tick speed doesn't make sense for it. Like, it just, like I said, takes way too long. So we needed to make a system where copper can be stopped from oxidizing past a certain stage while in a farm. I mean, if that doesn't happen, then this is the best we got. I mean, that's it. This will be the best we got if that doesn't happen. which isn't bad. It's not terrible. You can manage this, and it's not the end of the world or anything like that. And this is still pretty great. But this would be cooler. This would be so much cooler. So if I get heard, that's what I want to see. I want to see copper unable to oxidize when completely encased. That's what I want to see. And that would be really cool. And there's my video about how my beautiful machine does not work. Even though it's great and beautiful and great. Thanks for watching. I'm Quill, and this is a video about why copper could be better. Yeah. Okay, bye. Losing my words. I'm 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 losing my words. Anyways.